Hello, I'm Andy Cook with Rocky Mountain Reflections Photography. In this new series, we analyze real-world field images, including my own initial misses, to reveal key photographic insights. Today, we break down compositions from the stunning Badlands near Hanksville, Utah. All right, let's get started with this image. If I look at this, I'm really attracted to the colors, the shading, but this foreground down here seems pretty strong. So what happens if we try to remove that foreground a bit? It looks better. I think this is more interesting. Let's back up. We kind of lost this interesting area up here. And this interesting area up here is lovely, but it runs off the screen and it's left to right. It's kind of in the middle, so that's not really the best place for it. When we crop that foreground, we actually lost that beautiful sort of reddish rocks up on top. But this is all generally more pleasing. However, we're sort of framing a big nothing in the middle. So this one isn't working for us either. If we go on to the next one, where we tip it up a little bit, we try to get more of these rocks in. This actually looks a little bit more attractive up here, but they are still in the middle and they sort of run off the screen. We've solved the overly bright area down here that wasn't attractive, but this is still kind of what's in the center of the frame, and it's just not that exciting. What else can we do? We can zoom in tight. This looks a little blurry. We can zoom in tight and just make it all about these rocks here, which let's assume it's not blurry. This looks pretty good, but we've got some nice patterns of yellow and blue all over in here. Then it just sort of becomes blah over here. So I think this is starting to fail right here. Let's go and see what else we could do. We could go portrait. Now, I really sort of like this area right in through here. This is more interesting as a portrait. I like how this is kind of contained well within. I'm not sure we need to see it up this far. It could be argued that it's okay. As we come down, all of this feels pretty good, but this is still very bright down here, and it doesn't really add to this, this is the area of interest. So I don't see this adding value. Let's see what else we can do. Actually, let's back up. Now that I'm going to point this out to you, take a look at this area right here. That really seems a bit incongruous, and getting rid of it is really quite helpful. And I do think it makes it better. And we've got a little tighter foreground here. But again, it still seems wrong. And I think the answer winds up being, let's just go ahead and include this fence in the foreground. We do pick up a few trails, some tracks back in here, but we're already putting a man-made fence in here, so I don't think a few tracks in here are too distracting. One could always take them out if they are. But now we've got a good position for this beautiful sort of red rocks through here. We've got nice texture and tonalities in here. And I think this winds up being the better composition. So just to be clear here, I'm not confusing people. This is the same hillside, just a slightly different composition. I kept trying to work this scene and it wound up being better just to point the camera in a slightly different direction and work with these particular elements here. All right, let's take a look at this image here. I love the way these curves look and this whole set of patterns is. I just don't think I like this perspective on it. So it just feels abrupt and sort of peters out. There's just not quite the right angle on it. So I think walking along the ridge, trying to find another way to compose it can reveal a better shot. And I just feel that this movement through here feels a lot better now that we've moved down the ridge a little bit. And I like this composition pretty well, but this area right in here is a big sort of nothing. So your eye's going to go there because it's different than the rest of everything else. And if your eye's coming up here to look at this, we're missing all these wonderful patterns here. And I think the image fails. So let's see what else we can do here. We could tighten in and make a much tighter image. And I really like the way this feels. I just think we got to be careful. We need to do our border patrol. And when I do border patrol, I see this little area right up here. And I just feel like this sort of, now that you see it, your eye is going to keep going there and you're going to be unhappy with it. So one could solve this with a slight crop in post-processing, or just go ahead and recompose it in the field tip it down a little bit, pick up more of this foreground. This is sort of interesting. We have a few more patterns here that kind of lead down and swirl. These all make sense. They kind of build and then run down. And now when we go up to the back, we don't see that distracting corner in the upper left. So I think that's probably a really good way to handle this scene here. You know, the lesson for this particular workshop is walk and photograph, try different focal lengths. There's just a lot of compositional choices, and repeating these locations make a lot of sense. All right, let's move on to this next image here. We've got a few things we need to talk about. Again, this is just a quick raw capture. I've not put it together through the HDR to make sure we have all of the clouds looking the way they're supposed to, because I think it's got a few flaws. We don't necessarily really want to process this image. We've got this little angle up right here. This is definitely going to attract the eye, and I don't think the eye is meant to be going over here, so this would be a flaw. The other flaw, I think, is there's an awful lot of sky. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting up there, but the balance just doesn't seem right. I think we've got maybe too much sky up here. We definitely want to correct this problem, but there also may be a little too much sky. Let's go on to the next image. We've corrected the problem over here in the corner. This is a different day. We still have sort of an interesting sky, but in this case, there's just still too much sky. Also, if this is our subject, which I'd argue it is, it's kind of squarely in the middle, and we don't have framing elements that allow us to put it in the middle, so it's in an awkward position. Let's go on to the next try. So basically, this is just tipping it down, eliminating some of that excess sky. Let's back up. This sky up here is doing nothing for us, but as soon as we hit the clouds, it's sort of interesting. So if we just crop or bend down to include just the sky up to where the clouds are before they fade away, it becomes a cleaner, nicer image. And by tipping down and zooming a little bit, we now have our main subject filling across the frame. I don't know why I say across that way. Anyway, so now this is looking a lot more pleasing. And realistically, I think this image probably could be put together as an HDR image and really polished and look quite nice. In the past, I've elected to make it the horizontal and just go ahead and include the rest of the mountains that we were attempting to hide out, that we're having a problem with in the earlier portrait version. And I just think this gives us some nice flow as we enter in, bounce over to here, and then we have this as a background, again, with those clouds from the day where the clouds really lit up for us. So that's a quick walk through this particular location. On to the next one. Okay, what we're trying to do now is use our long lenses from up high on a mesa and zoom down in this huge, vast area, trying to isolate interesting looking patterns. And it's a little more difficult than you might think. Here's an attempt where I kind of got too much. I mean, really what your eye's drawn to in this image is this foreground and then this back ridge right here. And neither one of them are particularly interesting to look at, but your eyes do bounce back and forth between them. But they're not really they're not interesting. Potentially the interesting area might be here or might be something here. Let's see if we can do something by changing things around a little bit. Let's go with a longer lens. And let's work on this area that is right over here. And it definitely fills the frame more. We've eliminated some of the distracting elements, but what is the eye supposed to be looking at here? This dry creek bed kind of running through here in this little valley, or this ridge line here? It isn't really clear. If we change to the vertical format to maybe try to isolate out, well, we've eliminated, let's back up. We've eliminated some of this distracting elements here by going vertical, but we still have this problem of, is it this ridge line? Is it this dry creek bed? What are we supposed to be looking at? Nice patterns back here on the distant mountains, drainage patterns. And of course, this is a really nice drainage pattern in the foreground, but they don't seem to put together well. Realistically, let's look at the other side of this. If we take a look at this kind of ridge line right here, and from where we're standing, if we walk to the left a bit, we can get a perspective on it like this with a much longer lens. And I think this is kind of the sort of thing we're after here, where we isolate a pattern that runs predominantly throughout the entire image. It has a strong set of patterns, very controlling to the eye. When you try to look away, you have a tendency to look right back into those patterns. And anything you look at down here, while we see things down here that are slightly different, they don't seem to hold the eye. We want to run back into this area here, and even this brighter area up here. In this case, it's just nice contrast for the darker area right in through here. So I think this is one of the things we learn, is it's not easy just to show up, shoot off the mesa top and find all these wonderful patterns. It takes some time to shoot, refine, maybe look at the images on the computer, then go back out and correct mistakes we might have made earlier in the workshop. So this is a really helpful way to kind of shoot and improve. That wraps up our quick critique from Hanksville. If you found these insights valuable, remember to subscribe and check out our growing playlist for more tips. Better yet, learn these techniques in person by joining a Rocky Mountain Reflections photography workshop.